Well, hello everybody, back Realcomm Live. This is a more serious segment, a conversation we've been having in the Realcomm world for probably 5-6 years. The topic is cyber. We've got a group of folks here that there are none better when it comes to cybersecurity as it relates to buildings. I'm going to give you a little story on how this journey started, and then I'm going to turn it over to Charles Myers, who's going to fill in some of the blanks, and then we're going to have a conversation with these three gentlemen. So the conversation of cybersecurity as it relates to the built environment popped into our world about 5 years, 5-6 years?
6 years, yeah.
6 years. And we had read a story about a building being hacked and the vulnerability of a vendor. The story was written with input from a guy named Billy Rios. We quickly contacted Billy and said, what's going on? And he outlined to me the problems, the serious problems at the time. And so I remember I didn't even want to send an email because I didn't know if the bad guys were going to intercept it. So I literally called 40 people and said, want to come to this meeting? It was closed doors, invitation only, leave your cell phones at the door. Not quite that bad. But for about 3 hours, we got the, scared out of us. And
yes.
It was a very sober meeting. But we still didn't, at least I wasn't sure as whether or not it was going to really take off. This is something we had to mildly keep a look at. So the next year we opened it up to the world at large, opened up the general public, bigger crowd. And I don't know if it was that year or the following year, but
it was that year.
But you and Charles approached Howard and said, look, we need a room. We can't wait another year to have this conversation.
San Jose, right?
Yeah, I think you were in that room. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so that was the beginning of a conversation that took the cybersecurity conversation out of Realcomm and IBcon and kind of was leading the way to this separate organization, group of people that really wanted to focus. Very much still aligned with us, but it was starting to have a life of its own. So here we are now, 5 years, 6 years later,
right.
And Real Estate Cyber Consortium, RECC, is now an official entity. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charles, and you can tell us a little bit about the last 9 months, the final end of the journey, where you are today, and then we're going to let everybody.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's a startup that's been brewing for 5 years, and we went live this year, and we are now recinc.org. We incorporated as a nonprofit 501c6 in the District of Columbia. We also are on social media at recinc, and we're getting the message out. I keep telling people we're now 9 billion square feet we represent from the membership who are buying technology for 9 billion square feet, but we're still a grassroots organization of these billion-dollar companies trying to put this together. We're not in this for the money, we're in this to try and make this safer.
Yeah, I mean, none of these people on this panel have spare time and not only financially have helped support everybody keep this thing going, and then this is your third part-time job, right? Mm-hmm. Your volunteer work. So all the work, and that shows the level of commitment over the last 3 years. People gave their time, energy, effort, focus. Even though the world wasn't reacting to cyber as fast as we wanted to, we all knew it was important and kept going, and now it's got a full...
Well, if we go back, when we first put that email out to request that room, we didn't know who was going to show up. And
we had a full table.
Yeah, it was a full table.
People.
We had a lot of the big players there, and Jim, you were there, and so from our perspective, I had this kind of awakening moment. I talked about it at the Cyber Day yesterday, but when I got a tour of one of our buildings and really realized all this technology that was behind the scenes that wasn't on our corporate network, but and I think as it was put to me, it's like, oh, this is really impressive, but who owns this? It's like, well, this is your building. I guess you do. And it was like, blink, we're going to have to take care of this. So, Jim, what were your thoughts when you came to that meeting?
And I'll just kind of comment. I mean, Charles is our executive director, so it's really gotten to a point of critical mass with our incorporation as a nonprofit, and just some of the things that we've done to kind of get our foundation settled. But I just fundamentally, I don't want to do this by myself. It's not competitive. It's about an industry-wide, really concern and issue of really thinking about. I control IT, but really this is talking about OT, operational technology, and driving standards, driving an approach, because I can't reputationally on our platform have an event that affects the occupancy of a building. I mean, fundamentally, right?
And what's interesting is, 3 very big real estate brands sitting here. Quad Real Boston Properties in Brookfield, And I mean, you think about all the things you could be focusing on, right, that are more forward-thinking, more offense, if you will, than defense, and yet you know and have been willing to devote the time and effort to keep this conversation going to the point where we get to a real organization.
Well, unfortunately, Ryan couldn't be here, but Wells Fargo as well is still a member.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Jim said it. He can't afford to have an incident. I can't afford to have an incident. I can't afford to have Jim have an incident. Right? We can't have
one of us
All that the headlines. We were running from the headlines.
One of us get hit, we all get hit.
That's it, and it really is a for owners, by owners organization, driven by real estate folks like the folks that are up here with me today, and we're in it for the betterment of the industry. So I would encourage everybody, and I feel like I'm a cheerleader sometimes, but I would encourage everybody who's not involved to get involved, because
this video will be available done, so everybody will get it up to LinkedIn. And
it's critically important. It's not sexy, but it's critically important, and all of the forward-thinking stuff goes out the window.
It's an enabler. I mean,
Absolutely.
everything we've done around smart building and Google's presentation earlier. I mean, cyber and your control environment is a facilitator of what we're trying to achieve,
and it has to be there. I mean, if you're not doing cyber with all of this, you're just not doing it right. Is the real problem. And you know, as we try to become smarter and invest all this technology in our buildings, if that becomes the crutch that causes the issue, I mean, that's a black eye. I mean, if you're spending so many millions of dollars investing in technology, you have to protect it.
So let me ask a question though. I mean, you guys have given incredible time, effort, energy, and money over the last 3 to 4 years to get this thing, keep this thing moving to this point. We see the headlines daily, right? Everybody is aware that cyber is an issue. Why is there so? Why does that have to be a cheerleader? And why I would think by now, this is a no-brainer.
I think it's a not me. You know, a lot of people think I'm small. Right. I'm not going to be affected. It's not going to hit me directly. You know, oh, it happened to them. Oh, it may affect only one building. It won't affect all of us. You know, they don't realize that the interconnectivity of it all. They don't realize that, you know, it can be a much wider effect for everyone. And until people start to get over the fact that they realize that they are, you know, everyone's a target. Anyone can be a target. Anyone can be, you know, exploited for money. Then, you know, you don't get the buy-in, and that's why you have to use the examples that we see in the media to help really educate your board and your leadership.
Well, and I think what we're going to do, that presentation that Elon did about the hack of his building in Israel. I mean, he went line by line, code by code.
It's very, very powerful.
And it's getting better. The presentation.
No, I know.
I don't know if you're coaching him or giving him some insight, but it is easy to understand. I think we may do a separate episode with him, record that, and then, because that wakes you up.
Because it's real. It's real, right? It's real. It really happened. And the interesting thing about it is it could have very easily been avoided if they followed some before Elon, of course, if they followed some very simple things. And I think that's the big message here is to get started, it's not much. Like to raise your posture from nothing to something doesn't take a lot, but it's very powerful and it gives you a lot of defense out of the gate.
Well, and what's interesting is it wasn't just a technology conversation, it was an organizational issue.
Yes, absolutely.
With his vendors, with his service providers.
Right.
Everybody's saying, not my fault, right? And that in itself.
We talk about the supply chain being broken. We all need to be unified. And again, that's one of our goals is to elevate the entire supply chain around standards. And
because we're absolutely all still using the same vendors. I mean, it's if any of our major vendors get breached, it affects everyone in Realcomm. I mean, it's massive.
The breach occurred with the service provider. So he
said and they tried to cover it up. I mean, it was interesting.
It kept going.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when I crashed my parents' car. You try to fix it up, and hopefully they won't figure it out. That's kind of what happened, right?
But it comes down to the people. I mean, we can talk about the products and the technologies, but they've got to be configured correctly. You know, it's the people that are touching it, it's the people that are clicking on those links, and that's who we have to make aware, and that's who we're trying to reach out.
And I thought there was some other interesting, the other members of REC that touched the government, and we got access to all those 3-letter agencies, and I think this network of people that will ultimately come together. It's called leverage, right? I mean, you just look at the people who don't like us, whether it's a nation state or a disgruntled employee. We can't, like Jim said, you can't do this alone.
Well, and I think we're perfectly situated to be that buffer between government and regulation that we don't want to see come down on this industry, but we also have to make those vendors aware that it's coming unless they participate and start self-improve.
Well, you know, I mean, not that we would ever do this, because I'm not sure, but maybe a REC certified sticker for all these folks in this exhibit hall, so you very easily can see. I mean, we come up with a placard that says, you know, these people have passed the litmus test of REC. And at first, it doesn't have to be incredibly stringent. It's more of an awareness thing, but everybody in this room needs to know this.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I like that idea, but you would need we would have to work on the criteria for that. Right. So, you know, we have our certification process. Yeah, I think that's a good goal for us.
But I think the great thing is we're not in it to make a dollar, right? No. We're in it to improve the industry. So unlike a lot of stickers that you see where people are putting stickers on to make a few bucks, that's not what we're in this for.
No, not at all.
You know, I'm here. I always joke that I'm not even joking. I'm the least smart guy on this panel, but I'm here because it's important. Because a lot of the forward-thinking things that I want to do go nowhere unless I learn from Jim and learn from Sean. And I also joke, and it's not really a joke. Sean's our free consultant because I call him up because he's one of the smartest guys I know in this space, and he helps our guys out because that's what we need.
Well,
right?
and on that note, the other nice thing is you guys are younger, right? You're the future, so you got to. 3 guys on here, and other ones have been in this business for 30 plus years, 25, 30 years. We're ready, at least I am, to really start giving the younger generation the insight. And it's exciting to see young folks understand how serious this is.
I would agree.
It's a reality. I mean, if we don't, we're going to age out at some point, and this is the future. And even the 30 and the 20-year-olds, we need you guys to start reaching out to them. We need the young guys who are on the keyboards with their sweatshirts, you know, helping. This has got to be a generational thing, and that's why I'm really glad to see it.
One of the biggest byproducts as well, though, is that this is a community. You know, as Sana mentioned, is that, you know, we are trying to make change, we're trying to make a difference, but the fact is we get together and we share things that are not always necessarily cyber. Right. I mean, there's best practices, there's information. This is a real community that, and we'll have to make a note that when we incorporated, we are still more than 60% owner-occupied, managed. That is very critical, that this is an owner-occupier consortium, but we're now able to invite vendors in, those vendors that we are selecting that we know get it and are part of it. Well, and so now the community is getting bigger and stronger.
And the check is important, granted, but the thought leadership and the understanding that this is not a place to hawk your goods, that you need to come in as a thought leader, and if, by the way, you've got a good plan and a service or a product, solution. You guys will look at it, but it's got to be thought leadership first.
I mean, we had Monday morning, we had Cyber Morning, and the three of us were part of, as well as Ken Kurtz, and we have very different approaches to tackling the OT challenge. But you learn from, and then we presented like one tool or one approach we were each deploying, and it's really, I mean, it's just enlightening. I mean, the amount of takeaways people had from just the juxtaposition of 4 companies and how they're tackling, seeing the risk, tackling, aligning resources, and then using various tools I thought it was a powerful morning.
To me, my number one goal over the next 12 months is figuring out how to go after that apathy. And figuring out how to get those people who think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. I'm a small owner. I only got a few buildings.
I've had two conversations on the floor, and people wanting to have a conversation because it's not ownership inside their organizations, and how do we get the first base? Just people taking ownership of of the infrastructure.
And I think that's a key point. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. We're open arms here. We need everybody from all walks. Folks like myself who don't have a lot of background or experience. For people that do, and we all come together to help it out. And I think what's interesting is what we're actually doing is so important. We're protecting buildings that people live in, they work in, these critical environments where people spend their time.
And increasingly becoming digital.
Yeah, increasingly becoming digital. And increasingly interacting with these assets and these buildings digitally. We're protecting them. It's pretty cool.
Let's talk about the buildings. That digital sign in Times Square that's attached to the building is also a part of that brand, if you will.
Yeah,
so when that Times Square,
that's our buildings.
When that Times Square sign gets hacked by Notorious or whatever it's called, that's not a good thing, right? That won't hurt physical part of the asset, but that's a brand.
That's one of our biggest concerns always. We did a specific project just around digital signage because of the risk of it. I mean, there was I forget which company that was hit, and I wouldn't name them anyway, but in Piccadilly Circus in London, the sign was taken over displaying terrorist messages. I mean, the idea of that happening at any of our properties is...
That's a Black Mirror episode.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's not a good thing. Yeah. So we only got a couple minutes left. Let's start with Charles. Just go down. What would you ask the audience to do as it relates to Rec?
Reach out, recinc.org. Find us there. Support at Rec Inc. Shoot us an email. Find us on LinkedIn. We'll connect. We'll help.
Daniel?
Sign up. It's a couple dollars. I feel like I'm hawking it, but it's not much money, and it means a lot to the organization. It's not for profit. Charles is working his butt off for us. He's doing a fantastic job, and just join us.
Lean in.
Lean in.
Thanos said it better than I could. I would just say, join up, and if you're thinking about it, feel free to reach out to any of us too.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to provide input, or we'll provide input to you because we think it's important. So we'll try to help you with the motivation.
I'll put it in real estate terms, leverage. If you try to tackle this on your own, you're out of your mind. You become part of this organization. It's an insurance policy. It's access to a consultant and others like Sean, this is what they do. How many organizations can afford a CISO, right? A lot of real estate organizations do not, most don't. So if you're a smaller organization, all the reason is come in and get this expertise. So, all right, we are done. Thank you guys so much, not just for right now, but for the last 5-6 years of effort.
Yeah.
The industry appreciates what you're doing, and with that, I'd like to sign off this segment, and that's a wrap. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.